Good evening and welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, an NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. You are listening to and watching the review crew, and I am your host, Brian Come At Me Donlan. Now, week 2 is in the books, well, more or less. Another great weekend of football has been had, and I, unlike some of the panel, am thoroughly enjoying Victory Monday. And I'm enjoying this, that is very targeted because there's somebody else that's enjoying Victory Monday and there's somebody else who's in Monday Night Football. So there's only one person who isn't enjoying Victory Monday. But we'll get to that in a minute. Now, remember everybody, like, subscribe, follow the crew. You can get us. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. In terms of the podcast itself, we are everywhere you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Music, and everywhere else. So, it is a time to get going. Now, we've had a lot of different guests on over the off-season, and I am delighted to welcome back one of our off-season guests tonight. Now, it was really weird because he was telling me he hates his phone number because it starts 0202. I don't know what that was about. It's Mikey, the Ravens fan. Block on Insta. How you doing? How's your Monday been?
I'm very well. It's actually been not too bad, apart from the drama and the despair that there was last night and the nightmares of Gavin Minshew. But yeah, it's been all right. It's one of these slow starts to the season. I'm not used to it. But what I will say is, when you've been the best team in regular season for so many years and then you fall in the postseason, why not let's do the flip and just see how crap we can be in the normal and then see if we can get in the end zone and then get into the playoffs. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. But, yes, thank you for having me. Appreciate the welcome back.
That's just a great team. You do realise that you do still need to get enough wins to make the postseason.
I am pretty sure in my preview I said we would lose 4 times. So we're struggling now with what we've got to go. So
just try to get rattled through the 4 losses, are you? Right, okay. Thank you very much. Well, his Eagles are theoretically still flying high. It's probable they will continue to fly high tonight on Monday Night Football. He's came in, he's off the beach, but he's still got the sand between his toes. How are we doing tonight, Kev?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Had a nice wee day out at the Top Golf yesterday to watch Red Zone. So I treated myself a day off work today just to recover. So I'm nice and refreshed and relaxed.
Oh, very, very good. And that's actually, well worth a mention there that the great job by the fine chaps over at Stramash for their annual, I do believe, Top Golf Red Zone outing. Always a good night. I would love to go at it, but there's such a central belt bias with these things that I'm not bitter about at all, as I live up in the wastes of northern Scotland. Now, speaking of the Top Golf event, we have got Liam, our resident cheesehead. Now, Liam, the link with the Top Golf is that, Liam, I do believe you won a prize and forgot to collect it at that Top Golf event.
Possibly. Might have done. Wasn't even drinking. I can't have no excuses.
Well, he might have lost his prizes last night, but the big thing over the weekend was he was asking, what would life be like after love? But where there's a Willis, there's a way. And here he is. I'm really proud of that link, by the way. Well, there's a Willis, there's a way. Get it on T-shirts, get it on mugs, get it on hats. How are you doing, Liam? I'm just going to sit here and enjoy myself while you say hello, mate.
I'm doing well. I can't. Some ways a bit shocked it's a Victory Monday. I'll take it though. The way the week was starting, I wasn't looking forward to the red zone, shall I say, sitting there, but it turned out all right in the end.
Well, aye, absolutely, and we will get to talking about your beloved Green Bay and everybody else in due course. Now, everybody, there is far too much football to talk about, so this week I'm putting a pin in the kickoff question, and we are going to dive straight in. So, it obviously all kicked off on Thursday Night Football. Now, it was meant to be, we were promised a tough, gritty, divisional matchup. Now, much, and I suppose we'll kind of maybe make mention of this first, much of what actually happened on Thursday night has been overshadowed by Tua taking another hit, picking up another concussion. And I don't know, it's one where the guy's taking another massive concussion. We all seen it. I dare say everybody's seen it, if not the game, the replays by now. It's scary stuff, and I don't know, we'll fire this one round quickly, and then we'll actually talk about football. What do we make of the situation with Tua? I don't know if I'm asking what we think Tua should do, but what do we think the team, the league, what are our big thoughts on this? Anybody want to dive in? Anybody get kind of pressing thoughts straight off the rip with this one?
I've just got to jump in and say, did anybody see Good Morning Football on Friday? So Manti Te'o was on Good Morning Football on Friday, who's very close friends with Tua and his family. And he was on presenting, and they went to him and asked him about it, and he pretty much broke down on live on air. And he said that the last time Tua got a concussion, he wanted Tua to walk away from the sport then. And visibly you could see how worried he was. And obviously Tua's his own man and everything, but it's clearly concerning when ex-players or players are coming out, and you heard even the Raiders, I think it was the Raiders coach, came out and said he'd just tell him to retire. I mean, that's worrying for me if players in the league or people and personnel in the league know that's the right thing. And as a franchise, and I know they've made other things and they've made moves and all that, but as a franchise, if they allow Tua, and I don't know where and this is where it gets weird, because obviously the players will, and he wants to play, and if he gets medically cleared and all that sort of thing, then fine. But there does become a breaking point, and some people, I've seen takes on it, that some people think that breaking point's passed. And yeah,
it's really hard, because it is one where it's where do you draw the line? And this, I don't know, it's okay, Liam, I'll come to yourselves in half a sec. It's the one where I always think, and this is, I'm going to really lowball this in terms of the example I've got, but it is where I think that your head coach and your coaching team in general, the medical side as well, need to be firmer with players. You know, I mean, we've seen it with the Browns, with Baker when he did his shoulder, and he played all year. He was clearly broken, and Stefanski and the rest of the staff are going to him, oh, you know, and he was being a young man, and he was bullheaded. I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And they were basically saying, aye, all right, fine. And it was clearly to his physical detriment. Is this what we're seeing with Tua? And does somebody need to step in away at that point?
Who steps in though? Like, I mean, see if you look at another sport, for example, boxing, right? Now, those guys are taking like heavy hits to the head, you know, for a living, basically. And a couple of boxers that spring to mind for me would be Amir Khan, who had like practically no chin. So the amount of times he got knocked out and was all over the place in the ring, and yet the boxing board of control still, you know, allow him to continue. They basically endorse his license to fight. David Price is another one, the heavyweight. Seen him taking a few really heavy knockouts in the heavyweight division, and again he gets sanctioned to fight. So if a sport like boxing, where you know the doctors have to you know give you the all clear to go ahead and fight, and they're clearing these guys after very public, you know, knockouts time after time after time, then I don't see how anybody can step in and stop Tua from playing. I think it would have to be the decision that he would make for himself. You know, I'm sure if a doctor says to him, "Look, you should stop playing," like at the end of the day, it's still going to be his decision. So unless the concussion protocol changes and they bring in a rule where the doctors can just say, "No, that's you. You're done. You're out." But I can't see that happening with the amount of money that's on the line.
I suppose that's kind of the question then, where Liam, I suppose for you, man, it's so my thought in this, because I was thinking about is it the NFLPA? Is it the Players Association? Is it their job as the kind of representative of the players to think about not the team, not performance, not any of these things, but to think about Tua? You know, is that where they come in? You know, Liam, I don't know, where are you sitting in this one, mate?
I think back at that, it's it's kind of the politics of it all. If someone says there's a problem, if the NFL says you can't play because you're in questions, they're then admitting that is a problem with the game that they're trying to. Well, some may say are trying to not admit to. All these players that are retired and all these probably lawsuits that they're trying to get money out of for their injuries after the game. So then, it sounds terrible because it's a person's life we're talking about here, that they're playing politics. Well, they won't, like that. Who's going to admit to that it's their problem to solve, I suppose, in the end, without just saying, well, it's up to the player. He decides eventually. As long as he gets cleared, he's healthy and cleared, healthy and inverted commas at that moment to get cleared. Well, it's fine, sort of thing. As you say, then a couple of weeks later, does he get another concussion like 2 seasons ago when he had, was it 3 he had? So
3, yeah. Do you know, I hate to say this, but actually, I think you are exactly spot on, sir. I think at the end of the day, don't get me wrong, player safety and all the rest, it will always be a big thing in the league. But if they are balancing it and they don't have some form of liability, then they're going to want to just do the product. But it's tricky because it's a high impact game.
The thing you've got though is there is an element of, it's like anything in any sports. Like if we go and do stuff, we have to sign waivers. A responsibility to reasonably, practically keep the players safe. So if they give them all the right equipment, they give them all the stuff, they say they can wear guardian caps if they want, and they do all this stuff, and Tua then decides, nah, or any player decides, no, they don't want to, then that's obviously, and Liam's right, the argument about if they then said, no, you're not playing because of that, how many other players would be like, well, you let me play when I had that?
Yeah,
it's a can of worms that
it's a tricky situation. Right, well,
you've got it in soccer as well. There's how many players have had a heart attack on the pitch, or even Damar Hamlin, and then you read about it and it says the doctors have kind of told them they shouldn't play anymore, but then 6 months later they're on the pitch again. It's ultimately it's up to the individual to determine what they want to do.
Yeah, I suppose it is gonna go that way. Right, okay, we're gonna now. Obviously, the kind of closing point is we obviously wish Tua the best. At the end of the day, we want to see Tua do the best that is what he judges to be the best for him and his family and all the rest of it. And we do, if he decides to come back and play in the field, we'll all look forward to watching him because he's a fantastic athlete to watch. But yeah, it's one of the ones where it's a difficult one as a fan to watch because you're always a little bit, to my mind, a little bit conflicted. But right, we're going to move on to brighter things because we were promised a crazy, full-bore battle of the behemoths in Thursday night football, and the Bills absolutely delivered a doing that most people I don't think seen coming. I called a Bills win, but I did not see a doing coming. I thought the Finns would be much more competitive. Anybody want to kick me off? Anybody, what was a big observation of the game? Let's do a couple of big points that we spotted in this one, guys. Who's got something that they've seen in the game that they thought, that's noteworthy? I've got 2 up my sleeve.
I was just going to say it was like the night of the running backs, really, wasn't it? It was Cook on one side and AJ on the other side, really. So it's really, if you had Allen in your fantasy team, he did nothing for you.
No, he did not.
So
no, he did not. I say this as somebody with many shares in Josh Allen, who has carried me more than one campaign.
He didn't have to, obviously, and so it was just Cook. Obviously, he's now got 2 touchdowns in that game. He's already got more rushing touchdowns than last season, or at least enough, or at least the same. Sorry, I think. So he looked in the 49-yard run. He looked good, and then Achan or Achan, however you pronounce it, again looked a bit special. We'll see how his season goes now, depending on the Tua situation, how their season proceeds, sort of thing.
He's an interesting one, A-Chain, because is this the case? Do we have a bell cow? Do we actually have a bell cow back, which isn't that common in this era of football these days? We sat with came out with 22 touches in the game, 96 yards. Okay, he wasn't that efficient in the ground, but still, that's a lot of work to be given somebody. Kev, what were your kind of big takeaways for this one, mate?
Just that the Dolphins seem to be struggling a bit already, early season. I think A-Chain was doubtful for the game itself. Managed to make it, but they've got other injuries at running back already, and yeah, they seem to be struggling to live up to the expectations that they've set themselves over the last couple of seasons.
Now, that's an interesting point, because obviously you look at this and it's very easy to cross it with Tua went down. So Tua's gone out, and that's going to stymie any team's offense losing your QB, blah, blah, blah. They were struggling before Tua went out. I mean, Tua, even thinking that it was the third 3 picks.
But they had 2 interceptions in the first quarter. And that puts them in a hole. And it was as if Miami, after 2 quarters, just went, don't know what to do. I mean, Cook was averaging 7 yards a carry, and A-Chain was averaging 4 or just over 4. And it's like, and for a player who, as Kev says, was injured or was struggling, to give him that workload, it looked like they were like, and Tyreek had a little bit of an off night. And it just looked like they ran out of ideas. And although the Bills comfortably for me won it, I was like, I didn't think the Bills were like blowing the doors off. Like, I didn't think they were amazing. It was what a weird game. Game.
Yeah. I think you've actually hit the nail on the head. Comfortable is the word. The Bills, I say, I get to be the star, Josh Allen, fantasy owner, and you say like he did nothing, but he didn't need to do anything.
There's no comfortable games in the NFL unless you're playing the Panthers or the Giants, probably. But it's yeah, it was weird. It didn't look like a billing of a Stramash, kind of a big, good old game that we were expecting.
Right. Well, do you know, we're going to move on from games that we were expecting to go one particular way. Now, the Irn-Cru survivor pool is rocking and rolling, and I am, at the moment, one of 2 people left. And we're on week 2. And Mikey, we are coming to you with this one, because the reason that I am one of, as it stands, 2 people left. There could be a third. We've got one person who's got a stake in Monday Night Football, and that's it. But the reason this week, the Bengals killed everyone off last week, and this week, Mikey.
Well, I've got to say there is a thing. The bookmakers over the weekend apparently cleared out, because on the favourites, only 5 won in the favourites. So in Survivor world, and I never, like, in my survivors I'm in, I have never backed the highest percentage, because I'm like, that's just a recipe for disaster. Bengals last week, Ravens this week. I mean, Ravens were 9.5 points favourites against the Raiders. Raiders had not won, being down 10 points in the fourth in 49 attempts.
49 attempts.
49 attempts. And the Ravens, yet again, I mean, I laughed and I joked and all that, but the stats kind of get skewed, as most things do, right? Fundamentally, it's a really bad loss for the Ravens. It's a somewhat trap game, very similar to when Minshew beat us last year with the Colts, that we were heavy favourites. We should have won. We were kind of cruising. We thought we were comfortable. And then all of a sudden, we kind of had a little bit of collapse. Now, mitigating factors in that, O-line struggled really against Max Crosby, who played 100% of the snaps at the weekend.
Every single snap.
Now, there's another key little stat on this. Apparently, last season, he played 95% of the defensive snaps.
Something else.
So, and at Max Crosby's motor, if anybody they know he's full pelt. And worryingly, it took the Ravens, and I would say it took the Ravens a while to get up to speed. I don't actually think they actually got up to speed with him, because late in the game, he bursts through and he sacks Lamar and takes us right out of contention. And up until a certain point, this is why I said the comfortable point earlier, I actually came out the third quarter, come out, we ran down, we done Derrick Henry, starts getting his legs, throws a couple of stiff arms, we're like, happy days, this is going the way expected. Because the week before, the Chargers and the Raiders had played tight in the first half. Chargers came out, done that exactly the same. So it looked like the Raiders were a team who tired. Now, for a team that flew across the coast, landed at 4 o'clock in Baltimore on the Saturday, to play the 1 o'clock, to then have that level of effort, fair play. And ultimately, They had 4 scoring drives to end the game. 4 scoring drives. Now, they were aided a little bit with referee penalties.
Here we go.
No, let me because at one point,
Here we go.
at one point, Derek Henry, Ravens are basically we get a first down, we do a quarterback sneak, and pretty much if you get that, then the game's away. And Henry flinched his right leg, and we got knocked back 5, and then they stopped us. So then you go, right, okay, there's a turnover there. Now, even on the very last one, after they scored and went up, and then we were like, we kicked it away to them, they stopped us. Our punter, who had been fairly decent, and he's a pretty good punter, does a net 19-yard punt. So the Raiders' last drive for their field goal starts in the Ravens' half. So straight away, you're like, what's going wrong? And then you throw it in. The old commentators curse in the first half. We should have known when Mr. Tucker, who's ever so reliable and all that sort of stuff, they come out with the stat that in the last 2 years he's only 1 for 7 in 50-yard plus field goals. Mm-hmm. Now, he misses a 56-yarder. And at the time you think, oh, it's not. But 56-yarder means that when they're going down to then kick that field goal, they're having to go for a touchdown. It's a different game. Yeah. And it's so weird because 2 games in a row, we're 0-2 now. We had a lot of good in the Chiefs. We had a lot of good in the Chiefs game, right? And we got beat by a toe. And then the Raiders basically beat us by their toe. So it's so it's just it's one of them. There's a lot of frustration in the groups I'm in. Over 1,200 messages yesterday, and I had to mute it. I had to mute it.
You heard that? I had to forced to mute it.
Yeah, one of my friends from it was actually at the game at the weekend and had never seen the Ravens lose when he's went over. So he's broke his duck now. So unfortunately, James, that's you. Right.
But James's fault. That's it. But
what I would say is there's just so much to work on. The O-line. This is where it starts to get a little bit panicky. And this is where I really worry saying this, Brian, because you're just going to be like, yes, every week you've got to throw a stoke in the fire, right? We're away to the Cowboys this weekend.
Yes, you are. Who are pissed.
They're annoyed, we're annoyed, right? So it should be a good game, right? I think it'll be the Nance and Romo game instead of Brady being Cowboys again. So we'll maybe get that. The following week, we're at home to the Bills, which is like no an easy task.
Mm-mm.
And then the week after that, we decide we have to go away to Cincy.
Yes, you do.
So
who by that point will probably have woken up. Right, we're gonna roll on, Mikey. I'm sorry, mate.
Yeah,
we're gonna roll. It's tough times being in the flock at the minute. I'm so sad for you, devastated. Promise. It is tough. Now, Kev, Liam, I'll give you this one, just one liner each because I expect a particular answer. Are the Raiders actually legit? Or is this their one big show of the year? Kev, what do you think?
I would go for the latter. I'm not going to say it's their one big show of the year. I wouldn't put it past them to do that again on any given week. But at the same time, I don't expect that they're going to sustain that sort of level week in, week out. So I don't think that they're going to be much trouble come the playoffs postseason.
Liam, what about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm exactly with like Kev. I think Minshew will have his moments. I think the worrying thing for the Raiders was the rushing. They had not even, was it 30 yards, maybe even just about, or not even that, like
24 yards, I think it was. And Mattison scored a touchdown with a 4-yard, but for a long period he was minus. He had his touchdown at one point and he was on minus yards.
That's not going to cut it all season. Having that kind of play. So
what I would say, Brian, just quickly on the Raiders is they did beat the Chiefs last year with Aidan O'Connell. So
that's true.
So they do have their moments. They will. Kevin, you're right that they'll have the moments where you go wow, and all the talk is the Raiders are legit. they've got a real good defense, but they clicked for 4 drives yesterday with Bowers and Adams, who are both talents.
They are
Adams'
legit.
toe drag swag on the side with his catch at one of them was phenomenal. So it's like anything. That was 3/4 of dross for them to turn up in the fourth, and ultimately they won.
Any given Sunday, it's what we love about the game. Right, on the notion of dross, unfortunately, we're gonna move on, and I don't anticipate we'll spend a lot of time here. Chargers at Panthers, man. Does anybody right? So the story here is obviously that, and what will not be a surprising story. The Panthers got hosed. The story, I suppose, isn't actually about the game. Yeah, the Chargers got hosed. That's how I went through in the Survivor pool, because I'm going to consistently back whoever are playing the Panthers. But we have seen today, is just came out about an hour ago, maybe an hour and a bit, that Bryce Young has been benched. The Red Rifle rides again. I don't know, Kev, what are you taking? Is this going to be anything that's going to, I'm not going to say save the Panthers. I don't think that's part of the plan. Is it going to make them respectable?
No.
Andy Dalton step in.
I think you could drop Lamar or Patrick Mahomes or anybody in there, and I don't think it's going to make a huge difference to. But I mean, maybe I'm a bit cynical, but are the Panthers desperate for that number 1 pick next year? Like, did they even want to win games? Like, aye, well, they didn't get it last year, though, did they? So, having to count 2 whole seasons to get 1 pick.
That's worth checking. That's somebody in the MD listening in that's looking at this. Do the Panthers have their number 1 pick for next year, because they love trading them away? So just there are teams out there who are just actively trying to trade for the Panthers picks.
Did any of you see the press conference where they said that though? It's like I don't get it. They said Bryce Young is still our quarterback. Yeah. Bryce Young is our quarterback, and you're like, but you benched him. You can still learn and all that, but it sounds like you're just saying, right, Dalton, you go and take the hits, and Bryce can see, don't do that. Don't do that. It's like
we say it in the crew all the time. He's been put into an unwinnable situation. You know what I mean? He really has. And what you really want, if you're really taking it seriously, Liam, it's you. It's Green Bay. It's that approach. Now, okay, we know that Love's hurt at the minute. And you know, we'll segue for this into Green Bay, mate. But it is that, and that's where we're leaving. Chargers, well done, Chargers fans. I hope you enjoyed it. J.K. Dobbins absolutely leathered them 7 ways for Sunday. It was incredible to watch. JK, God, I really hope he stays healthy. Because he
shouldn't have done that. You see him doing the backflip. He shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. If I was his coach, I'd be saying, "Don't." I really hope he stays healthy. He's been great to watch. Quentin Johnson actually looked like he knows how to play football, which is a hell of a statement to make in this day and age. But at the end of the day, if the Chargers lost last night, that would have been shocking. And unfortunately, the Panthers are what they are. So as I say, the situation in Carolina with what they've done with their quarterback and trying to be so aggressive in getting him ready is in stark contrast to the Packers and how gently they kind of took it with love, had him sitting behind Rodgers for years. And he did step out and looked brilliant tail end of last year, looked great. Well, looked good. Week 1. I enjoyed watching him week 1. Then obviously he's picked up the injury. So, we had Packers at Colts. You walked away with the win, but it was a game that you must have been walking into that one, Liam, not expecting a huge amount. Or were you looking at Anthony Richardson going, our defense can take advantage of that?
Well, that was basically the game. Like, we were going to run the ball. Everyone knew we were going to run the ball. The Colts knew we were going to run the ball. Well, we think they knew we were going to run the ball. Like, it was just all about managing Willis. As much as Willis may have some, I've not seen much of Willis, won't lie, but he's also not got off to the best of starts. But he's only been in Green Bay for 3 weeks or something like that, so he's still learning everything.
12 or 14. 12 or 14 and a touchdown. Fair enough, it was only 122 yards, but that's not the point. 12 or 14.
But it was just a great coaching job by Lafleur, like managing that game. We had like 200 odd yards rushing in the first half, I think. And
Yeah,
we're just
I don't know, half by half. You finished the day with 261 yards
Yeah.
rushing,
we
which
first,
you let a
and it
team put
wasn't.
that up on you.
Yeah, and we're just daring Richardson to kind of throw it at times. I thought, I mean, Richardson, he's obviously got the talent, he's got the arm talent to throw it far, and he can make some big plays. But I suppose he's his highs and
I mean,
lows. He kind of
It's a rookie.
caught it.
See, right, Kev's actually hit nail on the head here, because this is literally what's written down as one of my main talking points for this game. Willis is Willis, and that was as Liam says. Actually, I don't think saying Willis is really that fair. Lafleur did a fantastic job with managing and coaching that game out. This is Anthony Richardson's rookie year. It's still his rookie year, and we knew when he was coming into the league, his physicals are off the scale. His football IQ, on the other hand, is maybe it's not his strength. Is that, Kev, when you were watching, was that the big thing you seen there? Was like that's what's lacking with Richardson?
I think, do you know what? I think it's interesting what Liam said there, because this is a conversation we seem to keep having over and over and over again, especially when we talk about how Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers and learned his position, and how that doesn't happen elsewhere. And all these superstar quarterbacks coming up for college in the draft just get thrown right in it with like a ton of expectation on them. And the interesting thing was there that Liam said that, Lafleur has managed the game to take the pressure off the quarterback. He's tried to design his offense for that game to make it as easy as possible for him. And obviously on the other side, you don't have that. You've got a young guy who's effectively a rookie. He got bad injury last year and missed most of the season. So he's still a rookie, but it seems as though it's all on him. Like, they're looking at him and they've got big expectations. And I think, like, even going back to Carolina, where they're taking your rookie out, maybe that's not a bad thing. I would say if Carolina are expecting to go through the season with a heavily losing record, maybe just play him and let him get experience. But at the same time, that can be damaging for a young quarterback. So maybe taking him out of the way, and just giving him a bit of a break and letting him learn behind somebody isn't the worst idea. But I think that's the main difference in this particular game, was the expectations that are being placed on these two young quarterbacks.
Yeah, it is very, very exciting. I think Willis would have come into that fundamentally with a blank check. You know what I mean? Willis's instructions will have, I'm going to bet, basically amounted to keep the ball safe and don't embarrass yourself. There's it. That's it. Just don't do that. Don't do that. Anything else, bonus. Right, so we'll move from two quarterbacks who are much less experienced to two quarterbacks that have been around the block, one of whom has been paid significantly a week ago. And I really wish that we were playing them this week, not last week. It was the New Orleans Saints putting 44 up on the Dallas Cowboys 19. Again, this is the... Mikey, you actually mentioned it at the start, mate. The amount of favourites who did not do the business this week. And this is very much on in that category. And I don't have the betting line in front of me. I don't know what caliber of favourites the Cowboys were, but they were definitely the favourites for this game. What were your big takeaways for this one, Mikey?
They were, and the fundamental thing that they sold out for the pass, and I don't know what it was, but they let the part of the Red Seas for rushing, and were just like, as a fan of the team that plays them next, I'd love the rushing to be like, because we have some good hammerhead rushers that I would like to kind of put into them, but it was so weird. It was like as if they thought their game plan, and the strange thing I never got was Kamara was amazing the week before.
Yeah.
So you're sitting thinking to yourself, kind of like Liam said about Green Bay and the Colts, it's like, clearly they were going to run, and that was a game plan. It's like, so why did the Cowboys then notice think that, well, the Saints are going to do that? Because we all know, and Saints are one of these teams that we always wait, I think, for the quarter. They can be really good, and then something will happen with the quarterback, and then it'll just be like, all right, well, what's going on here with the Saints? And Kamara's their X factor, right? And I mean, when you look at Kamara, had 20 attempts, 3 TDs, and 5.75 per. That's not groundbreaking. That just looks like he just had his way with them, and every time he got the ball, they were just, on you go, Alvin, on you go. And I don't know, if Derek Carr comes out and has 68% completion, it was a strange one, because I wasn't really watching it, because it was, and then when I flicked over, I was like, man, they're getting hosed, and why is that the case? But the Cowboys just looked to.
Do you know? It's interesting. I've literally just done the maths in this. Alvin Kamara accounted for 41% of the New Orleans Saints scrimmage yards. He put up 115 in the ground and 65 through the air with 4 touchdowns, as we all know. And as you say, he's the X factor.
If you got the stats from a QB and said, right, the QB had 11 of 16 with 240 yards, with 2 touchdowns and an interception, you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, that's a pumping for the other team.
That's 44 points there.
And you would like, so it's just, it seemed to me that Dallas just put themselves in really bad situations, and the Saints just seemed to, everything they touched, they just capitalised and scored.
So, do you know, it is interesting. Where did you guys come in this, Kev, Liam? What were your thoughts? Because this was, we all enjoyed slagging Dan off in the group chat, because it was just far too easy. He's currently buying stocks in Alvin Kamara voodoo dolls.
It was even more fun for me. He was sat opposite me at Topgolf, so I got to see the pain in his smile.
I didn't even realise.
where every touchdown that went in, his expression got worse and worse. But no, I know what you're saying about, like, you know, they must have known that they were going to run the ball, but yet, like, the early touchdown for Shaheed, I don't know, maybe if that spooked them, because and that's the thing about the Saints, they've got that threat. Shaheed's a real big threat with the deep ball. And maybe that they were set up to play against the run, then that happened, and then it just, I don't know, but it was just giving me flashbacks to when the Packers took them apart in the playoffs.
I think you're right though, Kev, because it's like the 70-yard for Sheed and then the 57-yard for Kamara. They went, well, hold on a minute, we've got to get hosed by the pass here.
Yeah.
And then and it's like they went, right, sell for that, and then they just went, right, we'll just take it around the other way. It's
yeah. I think their game plan, they just lost their way, I think. And it was like I said, the playoffs when Green Bay played them at the end of last season, like, there was just so many different options Green Bay had. It was coming from everywhere there as well, and I think they just get confused.
They stalled on the red zones as well, Brian. They notoriously were poor on that. And like I said earlier about Las Vegas, I mean, Las Vegas scored 4 on 4 drives and beat the Ravens. To win in the NFL, you have to get points from the red zone visits. You have to.
That's an interesting one, because as I just literally try and grab it now, the Cowboys scored on 4 of their 5 first half possessions, but 3 of that's field goals, and the Saints were putting touchdowns down. Red zone struggles just generally is something that has plagued the Cowboys for the last wee while. So what they've finished 6 of 13 in third downs, 1 of 3 in fourth, and 0 of 3 in the red zone. So they have just not been able to convert. And it's like you say, if you can't convert in the red zone, it is going to kill you. There is just no two ways about it. So we'll shift on for a game where very high scoring, big upset, to another upset game of the weekend, which feels like a bit of a cop-out at this point to say another upset game of the weekend. I enjoyed this upset massively, Liam. I'm going to hope you did, because I'm going to come to you. To be fair, you got to watch the Lions take a loss. So it was Baker. Baker, my boy, come back to Cleveland, please. It was Baker and his Bucks putting up 20 on the Lions at 16. Couple of big stories come out of this one, but what were your big thoughts as you watched this one between tee-offs at Top Golf?
I guess you can say obviously Baker had his moments. He played a good game, and then obviously Godwin got his yard as well. But then when you kind of look after the game, I was looking back. Obviously, Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks, which is nearly broke the record.
Incredible.
And it didn't really seem to affect the Bucks. I know the Lions had a chance obviously to get it at the end, but really, you think if that amount of sacks going on, you think again it's a bit like the Saints Cowboys games where it just seems to get away. The scores suddenly change. You want with those sacks, you're expecting a big shift in momentum, and it just never really seemed to happen for the Lions fully. And then Goff as well, he's not really hit the ground running yet this season. I don't think he's, after getting paid on the off season, he's not kind of quite what he was yet. With all the talent around him, he's had 2 interceptions I think in this game. He's just not quite kind of firing. I know they've had their big plays that Williams has come on and things like that, but and obviously Amon-Ra had a reasonable stat game as well, sort of thing. So you expect a wee bit more. It seemed a bit. I don't know. It seemed a bit.
It's funny you say it because you're right. Statistically, if you look offensively, at the offensive kind of stat line for the Lions, it does look really reasonable. You know what I mean? Goff was sat there 307 yards on the day. Gibbs is getting near 84 yards rushing. Amon-Ra's got 119 receiving. Williams has got 79. But there is one great, big, massive 0 written down next to everybody in that team, with the one exception of is it the one exception? Yeah, of Monty. Touchdowns. No touchdowns.
The key thing on that, though, Brian, is similar to the Cowboys. They were 1 of 7 in the red zone.
Yes.
They put up 460 yards and got 1 of 7 in the red zone. You're like,
can't do it. Can't do it in the league.
And I sound like an apologist for the coaches here, but they can only coach so much. It's like at some point, it's like they put them in these situations, and whether I don't know enough about the other teams and what their red zone play calls are like, but there just seems to be teams that when they get in the red zone, you're like, they've scored. I know tonight when the Eagles play, if the Eagles get in the red zone, I'm pretty much saying they've got to score, right? Because Hurts will do something and they'll pull out and then they'll get a play. There's teams like that who have got that high percentage. It's early in the season, so red zone stutters can be...
They happen and they can be overcome.
Yeah. But, I mean, if they weren't putting the yards up and they were struggling and all that, then you'd be like a bit more worried, I think. I think Lions will still be okay.
Well, it's an interesting one because, to be fair, and this was one of my takeaways, not from during the game because it happened afterwards, Dan Campbell basically put his hands up and said he made a bit of a melee, particularly the field goal opportunity where they had an extra man in the field and it knackers it. And it's when you are looking at a 4-point game at the end of the day, missing the opportunity for a field goal is massive. Yeah, okay, it's not going to convert it, but it changes the narrative of the game, and that is a big deal. Right, we're going to move on. We are drawing towards the end of what was the early window. It was the biggest early window of the year. So I am reliably informed by my good personal friend Scott Hansen, who let me know that at the opening of Red Zone, where we had the Decta box.
I was about to say, what was it? A Decta box? A 10?
Decta box. Take that Octobox.
Does anybody remember sorry, I was just about to say, I remember in Game Pass, or the old Game Pass, we used to be able to pick like 4 or 5 games and put them on your screen.
Yeah, you could select them.
And I loved doing that. Then, they've scrapped it. Now you need to watch what they give you.
just dazing now. Right, okay. I'm going to move on now. I personally am not going to talk about this game very much as it is my beloved Browns coming away as incredible, valiant 18-13 victors. Honestly, when I watched this, my takeaways for the Browns' point of view were pretty straightforward. Watson's still stinking. Watson had a reasonable first half. He was not bad in the first half, but second half, we've seen a lot of the stuff starting to come out again. As soon as the Jags D got moving on him, he's looking scared in the pocket. He's looking hesitant. He was safe with the ball, at least. We had no picks. So that was something. No touchdowns either, right enough. And, well, sorry, that is a lie. He did get his 1 yard rushing touchdown. But no passing touchdowns. It was a game from the Cleveland point of view that, for me, it was a nice, tidy enough win, and that was kind of it. Kev, my very provocative question to yourself, mate. Can we fall out of love with Trevor Lawrence yet? Can we possibly admit that he's not the prince who was promised?
I've never been convinced on him, to be honest. I was never, drinking that Kool-Aid. I don't think that. I think I might have made a comment kind of along similar lines at one point last season, and it got a chuckle for everybody on the show. But yeah, for me, he's all right. He's okay. But yeah, I don't think he's like the second coming or anything like that.
Yeah. I suppose one of the ones that, and I don't know how you guys have been feeling about this watching so far this season, is it feels, and there's been a lot of commentary about this around not having starters play preseason games, is the amount of penalties that we are seeing so far. Is I very rushedly actually find them. There was 152 yards of penalties in that game. Browns gave up 13 penalties for 100 yards with hilarious displays of indiscipline, particularly in the fourth, where we went from what should have been an easy chip shot touchdown, if not maybe pushed to the end zone, to having to desperately try and get it back into field goal range. And even then, the Jags putting up 6 penalties, 52 yards. The Jags were so much worse, though, because theirs came really, really critical points and bailed our offense out twice. They bailed us out. Once we had DPI, three times.
There was two roughing the passers, weren't there?
Two roughing the passer calls, which were both roughing the passer. The calls weren't egregious. Yeah. And the DPI was DPI. It was pretty cut and dried.
That's discipline, though, in week 2, isn't it?
It's such a... Is this a case where we really should just see... I get it. You want to kind of surround your starters in cotton wool. You don't want to risk the or you got injured on game 3 of the preseason. But these guys are rusty, and it's visible to everybody that, particularly as I've been looking at it, particularly linemen seem really rusty on both sides of the ball. I don't know if you guys have been sharing that one or that concern with other teams that you've been watching around the league.
There's two things in that for me. Yeah. On you go, Ken.
Sorry. No, I was just going to see when you were describing that there, I thought you could have been describing one of 4 games I watched this week in terms of the amount of penalties and dropping themselves back out of field goal range. It happened in the Bengals Chiefs game last night as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it does seem to be a bit of a problem, and teams are struggling to get going.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say is the Ravens had I think it was 115 yards. Penalties and 5, and it was ridiculous penalties, but there was some of them were I would moan about, but at the same time, by and large, the players are rusty and they're not much sharp, and the refs have come out with their playbooks and are being super stringent, right? And if anybody remembers the first week with the linemen not lining up,
Mm-hmm.
then and our guys came out and said, listen, we've got stats and the chips in there, and it shows that we were lined up, but the refs are calling it, certain refs. So they've got their playbook, and they're like, well, this is what we're going to call, and this is what we're doing, and everything. And I think what you'll see is they'll ease off, and players will get better, and it'll start to... It happens, but the rust thing is a contentious thing for me. It's in all my chats, I'm like, it really pees me off, because this is exactly what we end up having. Is it looks sloppy. It does.
I think it doesn't look good for the NFL. I think I've kind of thought that teams are just slow to get on. Like, it's meant to be their It's only 17. It's only 17 game season. It's not a long season
Yeah.
where you've got loads of games to get up to speed. Get a rebound, and and it's meant to be showing off the quality of the league, and it just like that. I say there's, as Kev said, there's many teams you could say just aren't quite there yet. They're just kind of shedding all that rust off, as you say. It's
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. Like as you say, I get why they don't do it in off season, but it seems just pointless. Why even have an off season? Might as well just have the regular season now.
Yeah, why not just get straight into it then?
Yeah.
Right,
I just want to say one thing on the Browns, Brian.
Right. There you go.
Well done to Myles Garrett and getting to his 90 sacks.
Yeah, third fastest to 90, I think.
Tied TJ, didn't he?
Tied TJ. JJ Watts.
Tied
JJ Watts. Tied JJ. JJ's
Watts.
ahead of him. And Hall of Fame. I can't remember his name. Damn it.
Reggie White.
Sorry?
Reggie White.
Reggie White, exactly who it is. But yeah, no, incredible. Miles is something else. It's better than Max Crosby conversation earlier. These players are just when elites talked about a lot, but these guys are elite.
Yeah.
Miles, Watt, Crosby, etc. There's a few of them in the game that are just insane. Right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about another one that was a big upset. And do you know, there's two main talking points I think for this one. Vikings taking the Niners 23-17. I'm going to start with a slightly more negative spin, I suppose. Brandon Ayuk, he got paid, big style, got paid. We had all the chat all off season. Is he going to play? Is he going to hold out? How long is this going to last? Well, they gave him the money, and he put up a whopping, as I find him, 43 yards last night. And week one, he put up something like 19. Is he? We hear about this occasionally. He's paid and done. Is this, Liam? I don't know what your thoughts on this one.
I don't know. It's kind of a bit in the back of what we talked about earlier. Is he just rusty coming out? He's not had the off season. I think he came out last week when he had I can't remember what the stats were last week. They didn't do anything last week. He said he was embarrassed to watch the tape. I think he came out and said or something to that effect. And it's just kind of like that. He's just not up to speed yet, and they've been practicing with everyone else but him, so they've everyone's got a rapport, with know what they're doing, and he's just not quite in the fold yet, I think, to some degree.
That's a really interesting point. That because as I say, he was the story of the off season, holding out. So he didn't practice, certainly not as much. And yeah, that is shown. His output so far has been poor. I suppose, Kev, you can maybe come in on this one. Should we be paying more attention to the Vikings?
No. I suppose it depends. I think it depends on how JJ is. If Justin Jefferson's injured, then I think we can just ignore them altogether. But I think with the Niners, there's a couple of things. It's week 2. Just the same way I'm not going to overreact on the Ravens' poor start. It's a week 2 loss. It's early in the season. Kansas lost early last year. What's more interesting about the Niners losing that game, though, is...
Kev's at the moment. Or have I had a moment?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I think we all had a moment there. I think the whole world can. Sorry, Kev, as you were saying.
Yeah, I think what's more interesting for me on the Niners losing yesterday was... I think we had a conversation about it, Brian, a couple of seasons ago now, maybe, where they had a run of 4 losses in the trot.
They did. The Browns started it.
Yeah, and it seemed like if you just take one of those big pieces away, that they didn't seem to be the same team. It just kind of coincided with, I don't know if it was Debo who was missing or CMC or whoever. But
that's a fair point. It was Debo at that point who went in, and they did, and they've obviously not got CMC now.
CMC's now missing, and I know that Mason done well last week, but I was shocked when I seen his projections in fantasy, like CMC numbers, and there's no way, like he's just not CMC. Do you know what I mean? So, I think that's something to keep an eye on. It is week 2. It could just be early in the season. They could just be rusty, but. Like I said, it just took me back to when we talked about it a couple of seasons back when they had that slump mid-season, and it was just like, they just take one of those superstars out and suddenly they're not like this swashbuckling team that we're used to watching.
And the Avengers were never any good when Iron Man left. Right. You go,
I
Mikey?
just don't know how. I was just going to say, when you look at San Fran's stats, like I still don't know how they lost that game against the Vikings, because Jefferson only put up 130 odd yards and 97 was on one play.
Because Sam Darnold is elite. That's
dialed it.
Sam Darnold QB1. Right, okay. We're going to shift on. Our only overtime game of week 1. We had the Seahawks eking out a sudden death overtime victory over the Patriots. Everybody's kind of, hot pick to not be a complete tire fire of the year. I think many people were very, very negative about the Pats as we came into the season. Obviously, they did one in the Bengals, and they tried, to be fair, to roll out exactly the same game plan against the Seahawks. But the Seahawks basically they've got some excellent receiving weapons, and they're D-stood up. Did any have big thoughts with this one? There was two stats that came out of this game. I'm going to keep my under my hat for a minute. But did anybody have any big thoughts about the Seahawks, Pats? Silence. Mine's was
that the Seahawks run game I always think about the Seahawks and think about, they're pounding you with a run game. It was non-apparent. That was one of the things I was like, oh, that's weird. Now,
Zach Charbonnet, 14 carries for a whopping 38 yards. Now, he did get a score, to be fair.
Now, but I get that when you've got a defensive head coach and he's a great defensive disguise and head coach. It looks like their offensive identity is a little bit missing with the Seahawks for me.
Yeah. Well, until they get Kenny Walker back, I think that problem might go. One of the things that was interesting that came out of this, and Liam, Kev, you guys can tell me your thoughts on this. I didn't even say this was a big game where it was all about matchups. So this was Next Gen's stat of the game. Patriots cornerback Christian Gonzalez aligned across from DK Metcalf on 36 of 44 routes, so 82% of the routes that DK ran. Metcalf was targeted 7 times against Gonzalez, and of those 7 targets, he walked away with 3 receptions and 24 yards. That was it. Metcalf caught all 7 of the targets against anyone else, anyone not named Christian Gonzalez, for 105 yards and a touchdown. And it does go to show you how important getting your matchups right is, and how with the right corner or the right defensive body on somebody, DK's a specimen. We all know this. We've all seen the pictures of him shirtless. What a man. You can lock him out of a game, though. We've seen it last week. He did nothing last week. Not right enough. Tyler Lockett did loads, but he did nothing. This game, if Christian Gonzalez is watching him, he does nothing. As soon as it's anyone else, he does everything. It is. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on this, or this idea of how important getting these matchups right really is in football.
It definitely is. You can just it just goes to show you what good coaching can be, like moving them around, like not keeping them stuck on that one player. Like I suppose last week was all about talking about another team, McLaurin with the Commanders, just staying on one side of the field the whole time.
Yeah,
like is that just bad game plan to do that? Whereas he did that. Metcalf, you could just leave Gonzalez out there, and just, as you say, Gonzalez has been outstanding. I think with all the receivers he's been up against, he's had some crazy good stats. So it just seems logical to move him around, get him out there, get him matched up or mismatched with someone else, and then here they are.
Right.
If they do get the matchups right, the Seahawks with Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Nigba, they could both be a pretty good tandem in the league.
Well, they were actually, on the note of them very briefly, they are the first pair of teammates in Seahawks history who have got 10 plus catches and 100 plus yards in a game at the same time. So there you go. Right, moving ourselves on. Liam, one for yourself, mate, and one for me, because I'm enjoying just slagging this player off mercilessly because I don't buy it. Aaron Rodgers, New York Jets. Now, yes, he got to celebrate a little victory Monday to himself, 24-17 over the mighty Tennessee Titans, who, to be fair, do have a reasonably decent defense. Unfortunately, they fundamentally have me at quarterback. So we have got Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he had a middling game, I'm going to say. is as good as I'm willing to give Aaron Rodgers. I genuinely say it, and I stand by it, and you can come at me if you disagree. We have last year with the Packers, Aaron Rodgers. We don't have second last year with the Packers, Aaron Rodgers. They are very different players, and we are getting one, not the other. I don't know if you had any big thoughts on this game. I'll be honest, it was kind of meh with the Jets, to be honest.
Yeah, I think for the Jets, supposedly, kind of up on Rodgers. The one thing for the Jets, at least they had a quarterback that could take them down the field to get the score they needed, which they've not had, because they got the score in the fourth quarter that they needed. Whereas in years gone by, you wouldn't have expected them to be able to do that. I get Rodgers' stats aren't amazing, but I suppose compared to the other quarterback so far, I suppose see how he does tonight. Cousins coming off a Achilles, certainly in 2 games, he's definitely the better of the 2, or seems the better of the 2 so far. But yes, he was always kind of slowing down. Not slowing down. I don't like that word slowing down. He wasn't like slowing down, but he's become more and more of a game manager. Like he makes still great throws. Don't get me wrong. But he's not going to extend plays as much as he used to do. There's I can't remember a couple of seasons ago now. I always remember one who was against. I can't remember, but anyway, he was running around a bit in the pocket and made the play. He's not going to be doing that anymore. So he's having to rely on getting those first or second reads and making those throws. Really, it was a kind of weird game. I thought, like I say, he had his okay stats. Wilson, his main wide receiver, was it 57 yards or so? You can expect more from him. Or all the hype's expecting more of them, should I say?
I think it's just a big statement. The passing attack in New York was meant to be the thing that was going to save them this year. That was going to be the difference. We know that Breece Hall's talented. Breece Hall's shown us that he's talented. We have heard that Garrett Wilson is talented. He was talented at college. He's not shown it, and he got a write-off because at the end of the day, he had terrible quarterback play. He now has, theoretically, an incredible quarterback, and we're not getting it from either of those guys. Briefly on this one, I'm kind of think we're more or less there with the Jets and the Titans, but is there any quick points I want to chuck in on that one?
One thing for me, if you don't watch anything, go and watch the Calvin Ridley touchdown.
Yes. Yeah, that, to be fair, as much as I love slagging off Levis, that was great.
Well, Levis showed his inexperience. He's good and bad, but that pass to Ridley and that catch, it was one of them. I was like, how did he even catch? Like double take. It was great.
That was your classic. Fuck it, Ridley's down there somewhere. It was a classic.
Believe it or not.
the last one of the early window. Then we'll rattle through the late window, and we'll leave a wee bit of time for Sunday night football. A battle of bottom feeders, and I am classing this as this. I actually found this game quite enjoyable to watch pieces of, but it was enjoyable because there were so many mistakes on both sides of the ball that it kind of cancelled out and made it fun. The Commanders taking the Giants down 21-18. Kev, I don't know if you had any big thoughts on this one. Jaden Daniels was a little better through the air. That's positive.
Yeah, my thoughts were, thank God that these two are in our division. That's that's the only thoughts I had. Not great at all. I actually had a sneaking feeling that the Giants would win it, but in the end, there wasn't much to be worried about.
No, it was. Well, you say that the G-men were in this game, and Daniel Jones was better last night than he normally is. That was a good game as far as Daniel Jones is concerned. Unfortunately, that totals out at less than 180 yards passing.
I just love that it's the best waiver wire pickup ever for Seabert, the kicker. For the Commanders. 7 field goals, 7 complete.
Perfect. 7 field goals. Longest was for 45-yarder. Which, to be fair, I suppose, on the Jaden Daniels, Jack, because you mentioned it earlier with the Jets, having somebody that can effectively kind of move them downfield a bit. Now, Daniels isn't getting them scoring touchdowns, which obviously is going to be a big concern. But he's getting them to within 45. And we talked about, and this actually isn't a dig, Mikey, I promise. We talked about how even Tucker is, as he's getting older, he's finding it harder to consistently nail these big, long 50-yard ones. A lot's been made over the last couple of weeks of big, huge touchdowns. Brandon Aubrey's got a lot to answer for. But Jaden Daniels and the running attack, to be fair, because they're 215 yards on the ground, were getting the Commanders in a position to at least put something on the board. And yeah, Cyber did his job.
The unwritten rule is you don't come away with no points.
Yes.
So, and it's annoying as 3 points is. It's better than no points. And
yeah.
And what I would say is they're moving the ball well, and they're probably the better of the bad, if you like, in Kev's division. What I will say just on the Giants is Malik Neighbours looks every part as good as he looked in college. He looks a decent and overall I think the wide receivers that were in college that have came in this year, I think they're a lot of them are doing what they've advertised.
Well, do you know what? You talk about seamless links because we're going to go for there too. MHJ has arrived. Now, this has got to be opening to a game of the weekend. What an opener. You've got 2 passes. Wait, Jesus, how many yards was it on 2 passes? It was something like 140 odd yards or something ridiculous. Okay, it wasn't that much. But it was a lot of yards on 2 passes. 2 touchdowns. Kyler just doing Kylery things. Some of his movement in the pocket was unbelievable. And yeah, when you can look at Marvin Harrison Jr.'s stat line for that one, 4 receptions, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's now much was made of his game 1 because his game 1 he was fundamentally invisible. But game 2, what a way to announce yourself to the league. Did you enjoy this one, Kev?
Yeah, it was excellent to watch, and I'm pleased for Harrison Jr. But again, I think people shouldn't get carried away and expect that every week from him now because he's going to be up and down, he's going to be hot and cold, and I think that the expectations putting placed on these rookies, I said it before about the quarterbacks, is unrealistic. And he's shown in that one game, what he's capable of. But it's going to be kind of up and down as the season goes on.
Yeah, and as you put it on the other side of that, and the Rams, were upset last night. They were again yet another upset for the weekend. They were a favourite walking into this one. I'm going to say surely the big story coming out of LA isn't actually that loss. But it's about what they have lost. Puka Nacua is down. He is on IR. Cooper Kupp is down. He was cited, and I don't know if there's been further news on this one, but he was seen walking about in a boot.
It's a high ankle sprain by the looks of it.
So what are we talking? 3, 4, 5 weeks? Maybe?
Yep. 3, 4 weeks, maybe.
Now you look at this is one that's interesting. I love looking at the box score for things like this. If we very quickly rattle through the Rams receivers, DeMarcus Robinson 50 yards, Tutu Atwell 48 yards, Cooper Kupp 37, Kyren Williams 27, Jordan Whittington 22, Tyler Johnson 20. If you are spreading the ball around that much and winning, it's fine. If you are spreading the ball around that much and clocking up 10 points, you are panicking and looking for an answer. Stafford is looking for a playmaker. And I don't know, losing Puka was big. Losing Puka and Cooper. Can the Rams bring their season back from that? Because they're going to be going at least a month without either of the top 2 options at wide receiver.
I think the other thing was
got big thoughts in that.
I was going to say the other thing. I think they lost a couple of their O-line or some other players as well after week 1, which they seem to just be compounded by injuries at the moment. I think that's just kind of derailing their season, really. To be honest with you,
they're another one of the 0-2 teams that you look at in that pool and you're like, can they recover? And I'd probably say when you look at the Bengals and the people and the other ones that seem a little bit more balanced. For me, the 2 wide receivers for them are their playmakers, their points makers, and I think they if they don't have them, it's hard slog. And at 0-2, they 3-4 weeks before they get them back. How quick are they got to be up to speed? I think it's a struggle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big uphill struggle for them. Right, well, before we hit what was one of probably the more intriguing games of the weekend, one that we are going to do quickly because it was dull as dishwater, and I make no apologies. Steelers Broncos, woohoo! Steelers, I am going to be blunt on this one. They've got 2 wins because they've came up against 2 teams that fundamentally aren't sure how to spell offense, let alone play it. I'm hopeful that Cousins will do better tonight, but we've seen what he was like in week 1, and I'm sorry. You know, I genuinely feel bad for Bo Nix. I genuinely watch him and I feel sorry for him. Has everybody seen his post game interview on ESPN where he was asked to talk about his interception, and instead of getting the big story, we got got the snap, drop back in the pocket, threw it to
Belichick answer. I kind of like that because it's like if he's compartmentalising it and saying that's what it is, you're like, right, okay, why embellish on it? It's like, that's what it is.
Right, we're moving on to that one because, as I say, unfortunately, folks, if you stayed and you watched that one, I hope that you found it interesting. I watched enough of it that I certainly did not. Moving on to a game I did enjoy. Well, no, I remain unconcerned about Pittsburgh. They are benefiting right now from having a soft schedule, and we'll see when they start playing some teams that need offense out of them. Steelers' defense is elite, and I'll never say any different. On defense, Steelers are utterly elite. What can fundamentally ruin any game that he is in against any team? On offense, they are anemic, and I will stand on that. I will die on that hill. We'll move on to 2 teams that are certainly not anemic on offense. We had what I am going to say was, in terms of a game that was really competitive, was probably my game of the weekend. Chiefs Bengals, lots was being made of it. Nobody wanted to see the baddies win again, but they managed it, as they so often do. We'll be brief with this one, guys, but what were your big takeaways for this game? Who wants to lead the charge?
It was kind of like, again, what you were talking about earlier about penalties. And I think that the Bengals absolutely shot themselves in the foot. They wrecked their own game when it came to the penalties that they were giving away, particularly that DPI late in the game, getting the first down for the game-winning field goal. Just so frustrating to watch. It was a great game. Really interesting to watch, and then just kind of chuck it away like that at the end was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, so it's one for on the penalties notion on it. With the Bengals had 8 penalties for 79 yards, and you can't give Kansas City 79 free yards. Kansas City, for their part, were 4 penalties for 44 yards, so even they are still displaying some of that rust as well. I don't know if you, Mikey, Liam, if you guys want to come in on this one.
I was just going to say, I think the Chiefs, 2 weeks ago, and they played 2 top teams and what they've done, but they've just been quite like 6 points, 7 points a quarter, and they've just stayed quite consistent. They haven't done. A lot of teams are like, oh, scored 14 points and then nothing, and then the Chiefs have just kind of went like that, and I've done all right. And I did see today there was a whole thing on, is Travis Kelce's a bit slow in coming out and stuff like. But I don't know. They just seem to be.
I will
moving along, if you like.
I will have every bit of credit for this because I've called Kelce start to the season all off season. Kansas City are doing what Kansas City need to do with Travis Kelce. They are being very sparing with him. Yeah. They know he is their playoff threat, and they are not risking. He's older. He is an older player in the league. They are not emptying that man's tank week 1, week 2, week 3. They're doing enough to win, and they are moving on with it. Right, we are going to move on to our last game of the week. Liam, I'll open with you in this one, mate, because, again, I've got opinions. And they're not a shock to anybody, my opinions. So it was Sunday Night Football. It was prime time. It was the Texans playing the Bears. The saviour of football was taking to the field again. Caleb was here, and he was going to show that pretender, CJ Stroud, how a real winner, a real number 1 pick plays football. Number 2 pick, step aside. Pa! Or did I get that wrong?
Well, think it's just the O-line, shall we say? We'll blame the O-line in this one, shall we? 7 sacks for
Hang on a minute. The Bears have an O-line.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's like, don't get me wrong. Caleb looks an athlete. He looks like he's impressive. But as you say, like we talked way back at the start, like, are we putting too much on him too early? He's got all those weapons. Everyone's been expecting amazing things from him all off season. Coming in, it's just not quite clicking. But is it even not Caleb's fault? Is it because it's the Bears? Because the organization as a whole, they got a new player in. They seem to be doing similar things. I know, Mikey, you talked a wee bit about that before we came on, actually, about they're just kind of doing what they did with Fields a bit as well. Another thing I kind of thought was like the running games. I know we talked about some running games earlier, but Swift, 18 yards and 14 carries. It's not really helping out your quarterback to get a bit of space, to get those shorter downs, to have some hopefully make some plays, with easy letting the playbook open up a bit more. It seems a bit disjointed, shall we say, so far.
Do you know, you're making a great point now. Before I give it to you, Mikey, to make your point that you were making about a certain comparison, I need to give Stewie's credit, as he was calling this all off season that DeAndre Swift is this year's Miles Sanders. All the preseason promise, none of the regular season production. Mikey, you were making a really nice point of comparison for the Bears quarterback situation before we came on. Do you want to kind of run us through some of your big thoughts on that, mate?
I just kind of looked at it and thought that there was one or two instances where Caleb Williams just looked like, if you close your eyes and you put it and you looked up, it could have been Justin Fields. It was the same type of offense. He was running about, struggling to do it, and even when the wide receivers were getting open and you were expecting, like, there's a pass, hit it, he was missing them, and it just looked sloppy. It looked a little bit stars in their eyes, if you like, and for me, I think some of the reports today were like the Bears are not ready for prime time. 100% they're not. Like, keep them out of the limelight a little bit, because I just thought that Caleb Williams, similar to what we've said on a lot of them, we're expecting him to come out and just be this walking down superstar and all that, and it's a massive jump from college to here. And they hyped him last week with the whole, he done a Malik Willis, he done what he needed to do to win the game and all that and everything. But then when you put it on his shoulders, he's not these other QBs who have, and I just want to say this one thing, because we touched on it earlier. All the QBs that are successful in the league just now, that are stars, if you like, the top 5, top 7 QBs, they all came into the league and sat, with a couple of exceptions, behind people who were MVPs or won Super Bowls and were stars.
Mm-hmm.
They then got bled into the team, and then they became good. These teams that are struggling and bringing these people in, thinking they're going to be a saviour, Caleb Williams needs a lot. He needs a lot of help on that Bears team before he can be a saviour, is my thought on it.
Right, last word in the last game of the evening, and it is all yours, Kev. What were your thoughts with this one, mate?
CJ Stroud is not suffering that second season slump that you predicted, Brian. He's rolling.
It doesn't look great.
I think it
doesn't look great for that prediction. Right, was wrong.
But yeah, I think it helps that the organisation's brought him in a few more weapons and a few more leaders, and I think that's what he came out and said, and you can see it. With Stephon Diggs, he's got somebody there that that's helping him kind of lead the team, as much as he might not be setting the world alight. And it was interesting that they were saying during the game that Diggs had this reputation as being a brat, toys out the pram, it's all about me. But apparently he's gone in there and he's shown the right attitude. It's about the team, and it's about supporting his quarterback, and it's not all about him getting the ball all the time. So that was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, Collins
this
was
one
higher.
definitely.
Yeah.
Collins was unreal, and I mean,
Aye.
Diggs was one of the first guys over to congratulate Collins, on his touchdowns. So yeah, all seems to be rosy in Houston at the minute.
Yeah, this one very much is getting chalked. I've made a lot of predictions over the time, and I'm actually, more often than not, I'm actually pretty good. This one looks like a bit of a flub. This one looks like Brian took a swing and he missed. Right, okay. We're gonna bring this show to a close, chaps. I've got a little statistic for us. It's only a wee tidbit of interest. Did you know that Jets running back Braylon Allen is the youngest player to score a touchdown in the NFL since Arnie Herbert? And that was in 1930. The ripe old age of 20 years, 239 days. So there you are. He's your young boy. There you go.
And is he available on the waiver wire?
You can try and waiver him if you want. That is still Brees backfield. You are welcome to waste your waiver pick on him. Right, okay. With that all said, that does bring week 2 to a close. As always, if you forget that pesky Monday night football, where we should, one would imagine, see the Eagles triumph in the Battle of the Birds, or are we going to see Kirk go prime time and go Kirko chains on that Eagles team? Who knows? It'll be an interesting one to find out. And remember, all crew socials will remain embargoed till lunchtime. So if you are catching up on with us early in the morning, you don't need to worry about us ruining it for you folks until you get a chance to watch the highlights, if you can stay the pace tonight. But that does bring us to a close. Now, remember, as always, the preview crew will be here on Thursday to talk to you about all things week 3. Now, remember, you can keep in touch with the crew. You can find us on X at Irn-Cru. We are on Insta, grid_iron_crew. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We are wherever you get your podcasts. Help grow the community. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Get in touch. Tell us what you want to hear about on the crew. All that is left for me is to say thank you very much to everybody. Kev, thank you very much for being on, as always, sir.
Thanks a lot, Brian. It's been fun.
Liam, it is your first outing of the season. It has been great to get you.
It's good to be back. Good to be back.
Tonight, mate.
Indeed, no, it's good to be back, and always a pleasure.
And Mikey, you are a new arrival. You've appeared us now twice in as many months, sir. We'll need to keep getting you on because if nothing else, I hope I get to keep slagging you for the It has been wonderful having you on, sir. Thank you.
I know. I appreciate being asked again. So yeah, good times, guys.
Right, and with that all said, all that is left for me to say is thank you very much for listening, everybody. And until we speak to you next week, enjoy the game.